Welcome back, everybody, to episode 4 of the GPT podcast.
I think it's 4 now.
I can't believe we're on episode 4.
Yeah.
That feels kind of weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting. If you're new here, this is the podcast where we talk about AI, the future of technology, cool stuff happening in the world while we drink tea. Today we have, what do we have today?
I don't know. You've given me some disgusting milkless tea.
This is, this tea is not.
Try it. I haven't tried it yet.
Have you not?
No, I'll try it.
Sip it. It is amazing. How refreshing.
Yeah, it is refreshing. Oh.
Yeah, it is the Pucker. Maybe we bleep this because they haven't sponsored the pod. It's a bleep Radiance tea, which is basically, it's a Pucker Radiance tea, which is basically a combination of mint, peppermint, and nettle and fennel.
I do feel radiant now.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, increase in radiance.
Will this make me work harder?
The idea, so the Pucker series is quite interesting because they've got some teas that are the actual like tea, like chamomile and stuff. Right. But then they've got some teas that are called like nighttime or focus and stuff. And so the focus one is really interesting because they use ingredients that are meant to be nootropics. So natural ingredients that boost focus. So it'd be quite interesting to test drinking a focus, a nootropic tea while working and see if you notice a difference.
Okay, so if a GPT model was to design a cup of tea.
Everything is about AI.
If a GPT model was going to design a tea, what tea would it design? I don't know anything about tea, so maybe there's one off the shelf you can pick on. Maybe it would be a completely novel tea.
What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to optimize for taste, for focus, for sleep, for...
Okay, so maybe the GPT model is the one drinking the tea. So it's a GPT tea.
Okay.
If a GPT was a person, what tea would it drink?
Depends on the day, depends on the hour. It's a tough question.
Do GPT models care about the hour and the day?
I don't know, man. This is kind of a weird line of questioning.
Yeah. I think that they're like the perfect, that, you know, they currently GPT models will do things perfectly most of the time because of the way they've been trained. They have like perfectly balanced arguments. They occasionally will say something random.
Okay.
So there's going to be is there a tea that's very pure and simple and straightforward?
I guess I'd probably go for like a chamomile.
Okay.
It's like good in all occasions. It's balanced, it's even.
So when we have a GPT on the GPT podcast.
Dude, we should actually do, if we like grow this podcast to past a very niche following, we should actually do a tea line.
A GPT tea.
Yeah. Like a box, and you get like different teas, and they're the teas that we drink in different episodes.
Ooh,
that would be pretty cool.
Every tea is maybe named after, like one's called Singularity.
Yep. One's called
Dystopia. Oh, we have different vibes here.
Yeah, we do. So we have had this. This is a very spaced out conversation, and there's a reason that this is a spaced out conversation currently. It's because we've had a very trippy day. In the office today, we've been speaking to none other than Steve Jobs, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, he was all right, wasn't he? He wasn't as intimidating as some people might say he is.
Yeah.
It was also the first day that you got yelled at by an AI.
Yeah. He did start screaming, which was
Don't ask Steve about his work-life balance.
Yeah, that was interesting. But the thing is, we spoke to Steve not about like small talk. It wasn't just like, hey, how are you? How's the weather? I mean, you were talking about your brother, and you were talking about like how to reconnect with people that you haven't spoken to in a long time. I was doing basically the same thing, saying, work has been so busy, so I haven't seen family in ages.
Yeah.
Feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. And he actually gave some really valuable advice that not only was coherent with what Steve Jobs probably would have said, but also like it made me feel something. You know?
Yeah, it was weird. So we filmed it. It's on Twitter. If you really want to go and have a look.
Yeah.
But it was kind of strange because we approached the personality we were designing slightly differently.
Yeah.
So it has a voice. It has Steve Jobs' voice.
Yeah. So for context, the way that we recreated Steve was we used 11 Labs for the voice. which performed amazingly, bar the scream, which performed amazingly. And then we recreated the personality with Carter.
Yeah.
So those two come together. You got Steve to talk to.
Got Steve to talk to, but you've also got, you touched on the personality. Personality is really interesting because you're not just getting generic advice, like well-balanced arguments. You're getting Steve Jobs-esque advice out of the system.
Yeah.
Which was very fascinating because it was a very passionate and enthusiastic and positive, optimistic, energetic support rather than, you know, everything will be all right. It was like, what is it that said to me? User experience is really important.
Yeah.
But it also said a bunch of other things that were really great. And I don't know about you, but when we were like editing the video and whacking it onto Twitter, I felt like I had just been through like a therapy session.
Yeah.
Even though like the issue was pretty much made up.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was kind of nice to open up to a system in front of everyone in the office.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing is, I would, based on the conversation that I had and the advice that he gave me. So to give you context of the conversation, you can go and see it on Twitter. But basically I said to Steve, I've been working a lot, and so I haven't had enough time to go and see my family. And Steve took that and he said, the most important things in life are to cherish the people that you love, because that's what makes life meaningful. And I think I remember one of his talks that he either did at Stanford or Harvard or something, where he was actually talking about how much he cherishes the people that are close to him. And it seems like Steve, and it was great advice. And the advice had an impact on me where I would actually want to have the second and third and ongoing conversations with Steve. If I could just like whack some headphones in and have a chat with him, or even text him. That's pretty crazy that AI can simulate characters very, very well, and simulate people. It's a pretty awesome experience. I'm still yet too scared to try and simulate my own voice and my own personality. I actually have a feeling that would be a very, very weird situation. Could you imagine literally talking to yourself, not in your head or like in front of the mirror?
Yes.
But like actually having a conversation with yourself, like you see in the movies, or like a Freaky Friday where you swap bodies or something. You actually talk to yourself. That would be I think I'd be too creeped out to do that.
So that's something we've spoken about before. And simulating yourself is strange because every input is training that system. So you could build a system in theory that every conversation it has with you, it gets a little bit better at simulating you because you're constantly giving it training data. You know, it's not like a one and done design of a personality. Here's the personality. Now let it grow over time. You can blindly take anything that you say to your AI self as training data for that AI to get a little bit better. And so over time, it would become you. It would talk exactly like you and make the same decisions and comments as you would. And I would argue probably within a year, it wouldn't matter whether you were talking to, like if you spoke to it every day, a lot, every day for a year, your family's not going to know the difference if they're texting you.
No, they won't. That's very scary. So I would ask you, before we actually get into the topics, I would ask you if you could recreate yourself, but there was the possibility, and you had maybe AutoGPT that continuously optimized the way that you speak and the way that you handle different interactions. And there was the possibility that you would no longer be physically able to turn yourself, your AI self off. And that would just exist in the world and on the open internet.
Yeah.
Would you want that, or would you be terrified of that? Because I would be terrified.
No, I'm okay with it.
Really?
Yeah.
A fully AI version of yourself.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me tell you why I would be terrified.
Okay.
If you had a fully AI version of yourself that you spoke to every single day, it learned how to be you to like an uncanny level. If somebody in the real world, a bad actor, wanted to manipulate you and they wanted to get some intel on how you would respond to different things, they could go talk to the AI version of you and basically talk to it and prod it and threaten it with different things until it evoked a very visceral, sensitive reaction. And they would know, okay, this would trigger the real life Hugh if it triggers the AI Hugh. I would not want that in the world.
Well, we spoke about this over the weekend. You sent me a message talking about, AI voice cloning technology being used to trick loved ones.
Oh my God. Yeah, that video.
Yeah. And I went down a massive rabbit hole.
Right.
And I ended up messaging my family on the group chat.
Right.
Saying like, sorry to ruin everybody's day. It was like my granddad's birthday as well. Okay. It was like, sorry to ruin everybody's day.
Yeah.
But there's this new technology. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And so anyone who has basically video or audio of themselves online, which is most people because of social media, we are now at a stage, no progress needed, at the stage where anyone can copy you and make you say or do anything you want. And so to you, it's not you, but to a parent or to a sibling or to a child who knows you, they are now a target for a different type of scam.
Yeah. So let's put some more context around this for people listening. So I came across a video that I shared with Hugh this weekend. This video is, did you watch it?
I did watch it.
It was insane. So basically this lady it was a video on TikTok of this lady talking to the police or giving some kind of interview where she was just going about her day. She's like in her 30s or 40s. She's a mum. She's going about her day normally, and then she gets a phone call. So she picks up the phone, and over the phone, she hears mum, mum, in a terrified voice that sounded exactly like her daughter. And it was supposedly her daughter. And her mum immediately knew something was wrong. And the mum was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? What's happening? And all the voice said on the phone, who was the voice of her daughter, was like, mum, mum. And it was like, mum, help. And then a man came on the phone and said, you need to pay us X amount of money. We have your daughter hostage. And in the background, you could hear the voice of the daughter. And so the lady, the mum, obviously panics like crazy, was like, oh my God, somebody's kidnapped my daughter and they're holding her hostage for ransom. So I think she paid the ransom, and it turns out that the voice of the daughter was completely AI generated. I think from her, I think she had like a TikTok, or she made some social content or something, completely AI generated voice, and was held supposedly for ransom to get money out of the mum. How insane is that? I mean, that's something that could happen to you or I, because we both have TikTok content.
Yeah, I mean, I'll read you the message I sent to my family.
Yeah.
My family are going to start hating me really soon. I said, hello, happy people. Just a note from someone on the inside. New AI tech is currently being abused by hackers and scammers to simulate loved ones' voices and even generate fake images indistinguishably, faking kidnappings, etc. If you have a lot of content online, you're more of a target, but it goes for everybody. I wish I could say this will get better, but honestly, it's quickly becoming time to only trust conversations you have in real life and encrypted services like WhatsApp. Watch out and be sensible, and welcome to the future. See you in the park.
Insane.
The thing is...
Did anyone reply?
Yeah. My mum did a sad face. But then she's been probably hearing these dystopian conversations for like way too long. She's numb to it. But I'm going
to do the same, actually. That's a good idea.
I think it's just like, be aware, especially if you have a decent sized following online, you've got a lot of content, you make a podcast, like this is training data and it will be used at some point by somebody.
Yeah.
So if you get a phone call or you get a text message or an email, it's probably not a human on the other end. If it's slightly suspicious, just try and confirm through some other way with that person, whether it's them or not, before acting on it. And if you're in doubt and it's the kidnapping case, go to the police immediately.
Yeah.
But also I think that our ground truth is going to be real life. I think real life is going to be the only place we know we are talking to one another.
Yeah, it's going to probably get to the point with maybe text to video, or maybe like an auto GPT that can output video, and you get a latency really low, it could be the case that you get to the point where even FaceTimes could be faked.
Yeah, I think that FaceTimes could be faked now if you just faked a glitchy connection.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Crazy. Okay, so
welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the pod.
What are we talking about first?
So, okay. So let me pull up my topics here. So I've got a bunch of things that I saw online that I would really love to talk to you about. The first one is actually something that I don't think anybody knows any more information than just the headline, which is Elon Musk has incorporated a new company in Nevada, and it's called X.AI. And it's supposedly going to be an AI company. People are speculating that it's going to be an AI company that rivals OpenAI. Now, Elon was previously, I think, the largest, or one of the largest, I think the largest donor to OpenAI when OpenAI was a nonprofit. I think he then pulled his funding when he was rejected to be the CEO, and they went private. And now he's just registered a company that has one director, which the company is called X.AI, and the director is Mr. Elon Musk, and the secretary is Jared Reeves, I think his name is, who is the guy that runs Elon's family office. So Elon has been in the AI space for a very, very long time with Tesla, and he's been talking about AI and his fears for AI, but also the possibilities for AI for ages, longer than anyone really, at least in the mainstream public sphere. What are your thoughts on X.AI? What do you think he's doing?
I'm not sure it's clear what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Tesla bot that we spoke about.
Optimus.
There's the whole Twitter thing, and how Twitter is now under a company called X something.
Mm-hmm. X
Corp, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's basically another X company. So Twitter Incorporated is no longer a thing, apparently. I read.
Right.
Don't fact check me on that, but that's like everything seems to be being consolidated on Elon's side.
Mm-hmm.
And X.AI, I think, probably is registered with a view of doing something significant in AI, but I'm not sure it's clear what that's going to be. And I don't think that rivaling OpenAI directly is going to be the right approach. Because OpenAI have one thing that Elon is going to really struggle to get.
Mm-hmm. Which is?
Data centers.
Right.
So maybe he can raise a ton of money. I mean, or maybe he uses Twitter's data centers. I don't think they have loads of GPUs to run Twitter. So like if you wanted to go up against OpenAI right now, what you need to do, that's a huge task, because what you need to do is you need to create a brand new data set that is the internet, but it's cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've got your clean data set from the internet, now you need to train your model. And training a model isn't like just turn it on and leave it. You need a team of people constantly watching the training on thousands of GPUs, like 10,000 GPUs or something. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It's a huge engineering challenge. Constantly watching the model to see if it diverges from its training, it starts going off in the wrong direction, able to correct it, to stop it, to roll it back. And once you've finished training, then you have to do your safety checks if you're responsible, which I think Elon would do. Mm-hmm. I think X.AI would do. But doing all of that with a brand new company, I think is going to be a challenge. It also seems that this company is trying to hire people from Google, from NVIDIA, and from OpenAI. Mm-hmm. And the rumor I heard was that he's struggling to hire people from OpenAI.
Interesting.
Yeah. There was also a comment from Sam Altman on Twitter. It was a single word.
Right.
And it said, concerning.
Really?
Yeah. Publicly.
Things seem to be heating up between those two.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I'm quite curious. I wonder, so him consolidating everything under this X brand. So when after he sold Zip2, he created X.com, which was going to be the financial services company. Then he merged with Confinity, which was Peter Thiel's company that had PayPal, and they merged. But he previously had a plan. He said publicly that when he was running X.com, by the way, he wasn't happy with the change from the name from X.com to PayPal. But Confinity seemed to have won that battle. But he said when he was running X.com, he had like a master plan. It sounds very cartoony, movie-ish, but he said he had this long document that he wrote out of his master plan for the best app, the best product on the internet. Now, Elon is a very good marketer, so it's questionable as to whether this exists or not. However, it seems like he did have a very, very strong view on what would be incredibly useful to have as like an internet, as like the everything app, right? And it seems like he's trying to put that plan into place with the Twitter acquisition, and now with X.AI, and just kind of bringing that project back to life. I wonder if X.AI is going to start off by being the specialized AI service provider for his other companies. So Tesla obviously do a lot of stuff training, like their self-driving systems and stuff. Twitter are doing more for their recommendation systems. It could be the case that these companies that are, so Tesla's focused on the cars, and it could be the case that they are branching out and branching too deep into AI, whereas that could be a separate company. And so Tesla could remain more focused, and Twitter could remain more focused on their core product, and have a third party company that focuses on the AI that's still within the ecosystem. That's possible. I don't know if data centers are going to be too much of a constraint for Elon, because surely he's built large data centers for all the training he's done at Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla have a really decent training data center. This is a little different. So I think it's only a problem if he's trying to go directly up against OpenAI. If he wants to do the OpenAI playbook, he wants to train a GPT model, so no new innovation needed, on a brand new data set. That's the hardest work. And on a data center that isn't owned by Microsoft, he will need to construct one. But it's not just the training, it's also the serving of the model. So then the question is, who are X.AI's customers? If they're random people on the internet, like OpenAI, through an API, the scale of serving these models is enormous.
Yeah.
And absolutely. Scaling up quickly is something that Azure can do. OpenAI can do that because they have the data centers ready. They can move workloads around. They can do really smart things. They've been doing it for years. Amazon with their new LLM serving is the same thing. They have thousands of GPUs all sat in a warehouse, whirring away, waiting for a workload. And they have the expertise on site, fire crews and everything. Because this is a real thing. Like, you don't just put your data in the cloud. It goes through a wire to another computer. And that's in a data center, really hot, working really hard. And there's all sorts of like virtualization and split workloads, like all of this complicated stuff that's going on that is being overlooked. In order to build an LLM and serve it to millions of people, there's so much work that has to be done. It's going to either be through a partnership, or they're going to take a completely different direction. They might go into AI safety, but I would have thought that if they were going to go into AI safety, it would look very similar to OpenAI.
Yeah.
Especially the early days of OpenAI, where you have a lot of people founding the company, a lot of split control, not one person has all of the power, all of that stuff.
I don't think X.AI has been set up as a non-profit. I think it's likely to be a for-profit business. I think he's done he's run through the playbook of building a non-profit, and it hasn't gone exactly how he thought it would go with OpenAI. And so it seems like there's going to be a for-profit business. I really wonder what he's building, because I don't think he's just going to build just a blatant competitor to OpenAI. He's not in the business of going into competition with anyone, really. All of his businesses before and all of his products have been incredibly nuanced, and they've been just he's been first mover in every market that he's gone into, basically.
Possibly, or he might go after completely multimodal models.
He might do that.
So this is the equivalent of getting humans to Mars, but in the AI world. It's like theoretically achievable, huge benefits if you try and do it, but it's pretty difficult. So people are taking baby steps, International Space Station, the moon, then Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you wanted to go after the moon shot or the Mars shot, an AI, you would go, okay, we need an AI that can see, hear, draw, generate videos, all of it, one model.
Mm-hmm.
That will take years. But if you focus just on that and you don't productize anything until you have that, maybe you can hop ahead of OpenAI. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that could be a very viable thing that he's doing. Basically creating sentient AI.
It might be sentient, or it might be just like Swiss Army knife. There's a Swiss Army knife of a model.
What do you mean by that?
So currently we have models that are increasing in their ability to like generalize. Mm-hmm. So one model that's able to talk can also draw. Like I tweeted something over the weekend, which was that GPT-4 can draw SVG files by just knowing how to code.
Mm-hmm.
But it can draw with an understanding of what that code looks like to a human. So if you say add 7 birds, it will draw 7 birds on that SVG file. Terrible birds, they're just lines.
Mm-hmm.
But it knows the number 7, it knows what a bird looks like, and it drew them. And so that is an example of a model being able to generalize on a task it wasn't trained to do, but it's able to output. With GPT-4, it's also able to output, it's also able to look at images. So input as images. So it's starting to be multimodal. It means it can take text, it can take images. Yeah. The next one's going to be audio. And maybe we combine it with something like Midjourney where you can output images as well. Now you've got a system that can do a lot of tasks. But there's another interesting benefit from multimodal models, which is that with a multimodal model, it learns between those data types. So there are examples of, GPT 3.5 not quite understanding things about color or shape or size. But GPT-4 being able to do those same tasks with a very much higher quality and much deeper understanding. And that deeper understanding is because not only has it seen the text on the internet, it's also seen the image next to the text.
Mm-hmm.
So it's able to understand what things look like a lot better. Mm-hmm. And it's able to draw those conclusions between what it read and what it saw. Whereas GPT 3.5 or ChatGPT wasn't able to do that. So it's kind of working blind.
So what do you think Elon is trying to do with X.AI?
It does kind of feel personal. It
like does. A vendetta that he's trying to settle?
Yeah, I think AI is the hot new thing that Elon's currently not part of. And I think that his brain and his attitude to business could actually be very beneficial to AI.
Mm.
He seems to be very good at engineering and building teams that are very good at engineering.
Well, he has been part of AI for a long time. And Tesla used to arguably have the best AI team in the world, especially when Copathy was there.
Yeah. But now he's at OpenAI.
Now he's at OpenAI, which is very interesting. Yeah. I'm curious to see what he does. It's also very interesting that he's called it X.AI. And he's very fascinated by WeChat. So WeChat in China is basically WhatsApp plus Twitter plus PayPal plus like Xbox or something. I think they can game on it or something. It's like it is the everything app for China. So everything you do in China when you're on the internet is usually connected to WeChat. And he likes that model. He was like, there is nothing like WeChat. He's tweeted publicly, there is nothing like WeChat that exists in the Western world. And that's kind of the idea that I have for X.com. And so I'm curious as to what he does with X.AI. The thing is, he can't really commercialize incredibly powerful models because he's been so vocal about being against opening up such powerful models to the public. He's been against that, and he's said we actively should not create more. He signed the letter to have an amnesty on training AI models for 6 months. He can't then go and create X.AI, which creates the most powerful model in the world and opens it up. I don't think it's going to be that. it's maybe going to be a siloed company that is working away at AGI and how to like and at the same time containing it.
Could be a Neuralink. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that's the more exciting one, I think.
Okay.
Like, I would be massively disappointed if X.AI is just a competitor to OpenAI.
Yeah.
I would be much more interested if they are the Neuralink of fighting AGI. And they're like, okay, there's a high probability that we're going to have, you know, some rogue AGI in the future. Just look at AutoGPT, like hugely popular thing. Nobody really understand, like the people using AutoGPT don't deeply understand what GPT-4 is doing. And yet they have access to one of the most powerful models on the planet that can go and make its own tasks up and then fulfill them. Like that sounds like a recipe for disaster. And that's what we have now. Like, just you wait until GPT-5 and 6 come out. Now we're in a completely different territory, especially if they're in a, you know, an API format, which maybe they will be, maybe they won't be. So if Elon's opinion is this is bad, this is going to go horribly wrong, and regulators are not going to step in time, he might be thinking we need to build something to fight this future. Now, you could argue that they're just going to create the one thing that they're terrified of, or they might be the person that steps in and say, that rogue AI that's destroying the internet right now, or whatever it is, we have a better one, and let's release that and see what happens. It's like the ultimate battle of the AI bots.
I imagine a suit of armor around the world. I'm curious. I am curious to see what he does.
Is it the bigger stick? I think it might be a bigger stick attempt.
Yeah, it could potentially be that. He's also this is such it's such a small point, but he pays a lot of attention to what he names things, if you've noticed. So like the Boring Company all of his names have always been fantastic. Even like those tiny products that he releases, like Not a Flamethrower, he pays very close attention to how he names things. Could be the case that X.AI is like against AI. So if you X something, it could either mean a kiss, or if somebody is like, I don't know, been killed, you draw a big X.
Yeah.
Or if you found something, you draw a big X. I don't know. This could be
it's a holiday resort, and every resort is like in a Faraday cage, and it's like completely offline.
Yeah.
It's on an oil tanker in the ocean where AI can't get you. And that's it.
Yeah.
It could be nothing to do with software at all.
Yeah, it could be the competitor to Aviva.
Or it could be like a nuclear bunker company.
Yeah, it could be a bunker company.
Big hole. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it could be like super boring, like, I don't know.
Yeah, lobbying for regulation in Washington.
Yeah, or like the competitor to like Secret Escapes or something. Anyway, okay, that conversation derailed. So time to move on.
Highly intelligent conversation.
Yes. Okay, so do you have topics or should I go for another one?
I've got a topic, but you go for yours first.
Okay. So I have two more topics. The first one that I'm going to bring up is something called... Are you off? Bye, Haywa.
See you, Haywa.
Okay, so I saw briefly fleeting. I haven't read the paper yet, but I read the abstract and it seemed very interesting. I saw this fleeting paper that was created by Harvard and MIT. So they collabed on a new AI paper, basically training what they're calling media diet models.
Okay.
So basically, what they did. Harvard and MIT, it seems like I need to read the full paper, so I'm not quoting anything, but it seems like what they did is they basically came together and they were like, okay, what would happen if you train an AI model on different pieces of media that have come out, along with the customer satisfaction surveys and the customer opinion surveys and opinion polls and these types of things. Basically, a piece of media content and the reaction to that media.
Okay.
So they saw what happened. So they got a data set of a bunch of different articles, a bunch of different media posts, and also a bunch of reactions from different communities about said media posts. And they trained this AI model, and they created this media diet model, which basically they're saying has the ability that if you feed in an article, if you feed in a piece of media, a piece of content into this model that they've trained, and ask it, okay, how would the Hispanic community of the US, or how would the, I don't know, the female community of, I don't know, New York react to this article? What would be their opinion? And apparently this model is very, very good at assessing and predicting public opinion based on different models. Now, this is incredibly interesting. If this is accurate, and it's accurate to a high degree, this is very, very interesting, because what you could do if you're a media company and you're trying to, or any kind of company that has an agenda and a following, you could essentially create an article or create a piece of content that supports your worldview, and then give it to this model and say, would this article have the reaction that, what reaction would this piece of content have within this community? And if the model is very, very good at predicting the reaction that it has, and you look at the output of the model is not the reaction that you were hoping for with this model, you could probably then ask it, okay, how could I change this article to incite this reaction? And it would probably give you an output on how to edit your article. And so you could start to, with this media diet model, start to really manicure the tone of voice that you have in your content if you're a media publishing company, and be involved in some pretty wide scale manipulation of the public.
Yeah, I can't tell whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, because like on one hand, you've got a tool that is capable of telling you how to write an article to appease a certain group of people or frustrate another group of people. But also the same technology could be used to reduce division in society if enforced correctly. So that seems like something that's going to get regulated pretty quickly. Like one of the first things that's going to be regulated is going to be manipulation with AI systems. There is like strong proof that the citizens of the UK were manipulated with AI during the Brexit vote.
Right.
Like, during the Brexit campaign. And this is now considered what's known as PSYOPs, which is like psychological operations. It's what militaries do on the enemy's population to get them to, you know, there's a lot of that going on with Russia and Ukraine at the moment. And so AI propaganda does kind of scare me. And I'm sure that this system is probably going to be used for that. But also, it could be used, this is my optimism kicking in, to reduce the division by saying, hey, look, I've got this article. Who's it going to upset? And can we rewrite it so that it doesn't upset them, or at least consider their point of view? If this model really truly understands why people get upset, then in theory, I'm guessing it's understood something about what people believe and their point of view. So is this model capable of empathy a little bit?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I always want to look at the optimistic view and say, yeah, this could, if you're a media company right now, and currently you don't have a very clear way of understanding what the public reception to a piece of content that you create will be, you can now feed it to this model, and if it's got a massively high divisive score among a certain population, then you can maybe edit it to reduce that score. However, based on what we've seen in the world, based on just the concept of clickbait, and based on like the different titles that different pieces of media are called, it seems like they would try to increase divisiveness because it's just fundamentally more shareable and it fits more in line with their business model. It's worrying, but then you can also maybe take the same model. This model, if you strip back away from media and you strip back away from customer opinions, it's basically a model that's pretty good at predicting how a large number of people or a certain large community will react to an idea or a concept or a thing that happens. That kind of accurate prediction of the future seems pretty worrying. Because it could be used in very good circumstances, but it could also be used in pretty harmful ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it could be used in harmful ways, but I think that there are going to be people that try and use it for good. So like right now, if you look at AutoGPT, there are definitely people using AutoGPT. I've seen this on Twitter. There are people using AutoGPT to increase the amount of stars on GitHub of AutoGPT.
Okay.
Right? There must be.
Right.
It's got like, last time I checked, it was like 75,000 stars. That's more than PyTorch. Like
last episode, it was 24,000.
Yeah. And then when I checked our video, I had AutoGPT open another tab and it was at 50.
Yeah.
And it was a day later.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's got to be a few bad actors in there. Luckily, AutoGPT has I can't believe I'm saying this, but it has a habit of going off the rails and getting caught in loops and things. So that's probably good at this point. It's not so good if it's pulling lots of levers in the real world and it's like signing up to stuff and downloading stuff and building stuff and running stuff. But like right now, it getting caught in loops a lot and you having to be very specific about the instructions you give it. This seems correct. And I think with all of these pieces of tech that are coming out, you're going to get the vast majority that are good people. They want to make their business better, or they want to find a cure for cancer, whatever their thing is. And then you're going to have the bad actors. And so if I think it could be like a total war, but I think if there were systems being abused in the world, you would see communities forming around beating those systems.
Yes.
And fighting back and identifying them. And maybe you're going to start seeing Chrome extensions powered by like AutoGPT that fact check articles while you're reading them. Or that say this article is manipulative to your target, like to your group of people.
So like a Chrome extension, kind of like community notes on Twitter, where you see to give the readers more context. That's very, very interesting.
There you go. That idea's for free if anyone wants to build it.
Yeah, I think that's a really great thing. If somebody wants to build that, basically community notes, but not just for Twitter, for anything you read online.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. So, okay. So did you see somebody created this thing called ChaosGPT?
Oh, okay. I haven't read anything about it. I just briefly saw an article and scroll past it. So tell me what it is.
Okay, I'm the same. I literally just saw it in the feed.
There's a thing called ChaosGPT.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up because somebody basically used, as far as I'm aware, somebody used either AutoGPT or Baby AGI, one of those two. I think it was AutoGPT, in continuous mode to basically, I think it was optimizing to create as much chaos as possible in the world. And they just left it running, and it's on continuous. And I think people are obviously fascinated by this. Like, is this the Ultron moment of the real world? I think it just got itself caught in a bunch of loops, and it didn't do very well. But this is worrying, not because of the AI's output, but because a human actually built that and put it on continuous mode. Like, in actual fact, the whole ChaosGPT, it's kind of like, remember the baby Ultron? I don't want to get too deep into the world of Marvel. Remember the baby, like the Ultron right at the end where it was just kind of crawling? It's basically that kind of danger level. Not even. But the fact that somebody actually created ChaosGPT with the goal in mind to create as much chaos as possible and left it on continuous mode, that's very, very concerning, because this technology will become very, very powerful. It's inevitable that it's going to become very powerful. And previously with different tools, the bad actors would obviously use different tools like, I don't know, payment processor, like mirrors and stuff to try and get you to put your cards in. These tools, while malicious, were limited in the leverage that they had, right? Whereas ChaosGPT, that can run continuously and just have string together a bunch of transformer models that optimize for a particular mal-intended task, that's a lot of leverage to have. And that's one bad actor or a small group of bad actors that created that. This is worrying. And so you could do the same thing, back to the topic of the media diet models. It wouldn't take many bad actors to basically say, okay, we want to grow the message of, I don't know, fascism or whatever, insert X bad thing. We want to grow the message of this. And so we are currently not doing a good job of putting this word out because people aren't joining our cult or joining our group, how can we create a string and a cadence of different pieces of content and different posts to convince this particular group of influential people to join our movement? It's a worrying concept. Have you read 1984?
I actually haven't read it.
Okay. I really highly suggest, especially now, read Orwell.
Given our position and what we're attempting to build, it might be time to read that book. There are very smart people in the world who are working on very dumb ideas.
Okay.
And I think that what you're now going to start doing is giving very dumb, irresponsible people very smart brains that they can control.
With these models.
So it's media diet, it's ChaosGPT. And so you're going to get a lot of stupid things happening, but they're going to be really stupid things. Like you're going to get the dangerous threats to life from AI that will start happening. You will get the hack into this plane and bring it down scenarios, but you're also going to get stupid things. Like someone is going to find some exploit for printers and is going to print a SpongeBob meme 1,000 times with every printer in the world with that ID. Like that stuff is going to happen. That's the sort of the stupid stuff that's going to start happening. It's going to be mass exploits across the internet that were discovered by something like AutoGPT. It's going to be memes everywhere. Like if you look at the culture, GameStop's a great example, right? The Reddit culture and what happened with GameStop, it was all like fueled by memes and communities that love to have a bit of fun and to find the back door and to like have a play and to do something that's kind of out of the mold. So I don't know whether a community that was actually hell-bent on ending the world, I don't know whether they would actually do it. I think they would more likely print memes or do something that's immature as opposed to like, you know, bring a country to its knees. I think that's still going to be reserved for larger countries. Like, yes, someone can create ChaosGPT, but is it just the name of ChaosGPT that actually makes it sound scary? Is ChaosGPT, can I ask, is ChaosGPT and AutoGPT with a different prompt? Or is it
I'm not sure.
different?
I'm not sure. I think it's just somebody using AutoGPT with a different prompt.
Well, so when you use AutoGPT, the first thing it says is, what would you like me to be called? Now I can type anything. I was using it to try and find people to hire the other day. And I was like, just go onto the internet and like find, and it did a terrible job. It got like a third of the way there. But I called that Hire GPT. If I put that in a tweet and tweet it, it could potentially be picked up, go viral. And then now all of the hiring agencies are like, you know, all the recruiters like, oh my God, you know, it's the end of recruitment, blah, blah, blah. Just based on the name. And I think it's important that we don't get swept up in the hype of the technology when some of it is showing real promise. Some of it is not going to show promise for a long time.
Okay. But so to bring that back in, it could be the case that a bunch of groups do get together and just do immature stuff. And maybe most of the bad actors are doing immature stuff, like using printers connected to the internet to print 1,000 copies of the same
Please
meme.
don't do that.
Yeah. But there are also genuine bad actors that aren't that profit from doing their malintended stuff. Like we still have not explored, or I haven't seen any content about what's going on in the AI dark world. So on the dark web, are they using these models? Have they found a way to use either OpenAI's models, which probably have super strict content moderation, so it's probably not that, or like an open source competitor of like Bloom, for example, an open source competitor of GPT-3. Are they using these open source foundational models to do some pretty scary stuff? Like forge documents, like the kidnapping example? Because it could be the case that there is a legitimate business in forging voices to threaten people. These, I don't think yes, there will be the immature people that do silly stuff, but there are also criminal organizations that will form completely around utilizing AI.
Do you remember a couple of years ago, Gatwick Airport in the UK closed for days because somebody flew a drone near the airport?
I think I saw the headlines.
Oh my goodness. it was a disaster, right? So no one got hurt, but no planes could could take off or land from one of the key UK airports. And this was because one drone had been spotted on and off around the airport. The problem was that the police couldn't find who was piloting the drone, and they couldn't find the drone. So they said, we've got a good idea. Let's use our drones to try and find the other drone. Now, I wasn't there, but allegedly what happened was that you had police surrounding the airport, spotting the police drone, being like, there it is. And it was the police drone. But that wasn't actually the drone that it was just a disaster, and it was closed for days, and everyone was furious. No one could go on holiday. It was like a whole problem.
Okay.
And so after that, they were like, okay, we need to regulate drones more. And there's more drone regulation in the UK now. And like now within the drone community, you have most people in the like UAV drone community are responsible. They follow the laws. They get the right licenses and permissions. And occasionally you get someone who breaks the law. But it's not as common as it used to be, because there's a sense of, if we don't buck our ideas up, heavy regulation is going to spoil it for everyone. Now, I think what might happen in AI, if you do get large-scale scams or people being, the kidnapping example is a great one, but if you do get these large-scale scams, all that is going to happen is that the toys are going to get taken away early, prematurely. Like, we're talking about regulating AI before AGI takes over. But actually, it might be a lot sooner. If a lot of bad actors get together and use GPT-4 to rob everyone, or to turn off a power station, or something like that, it'll just get turned off. That's what will happen.
But what happens in the case that these a group of bad actors have got together and they are locally running a model? So like, on the drone example, drones, I find drones so super interesting. Did you see Elon did an interview with somebody, and he was like, yeah, you could just build right today. This was back in 2018. Today, you could build a swarm of assassin drones that basically are a drone that has like a C4 attached to it and uses Apple's Face ID. You could just get them to scan a building, and when they see somebody, they run into them and explode. Let's say that wasn't powered by a person, but it was powered by, or maybe somebody had a group of, maybe a company had 100 drones. Some kind of aerial view company had 100 drones, and those drones were connected to the internet. And somebody used maybe AutoGPT to hack into that internal network, that intranet, and run scripts on these drones to get them to fly into people, and even with their propellers, just fly into people and target the eyes. This is getting super gruesome. Maybe we should move away. But if you did that, and you could host an AutoGPT like system locally on your own little data center, how are you ever going to regulate that? Let's say we had a little stack here. Yeah. And we had 20 GPUs and we were running, I don't know, Bloom or whatever, and a bunch of other ones. How is that going to get regulated?
Well, I think this is the next level up. So I have faith in humanity to a certain extent, which is that while there are bad actors with lots of resources, the more resources you need, the less bad actors there are.
Yeah, for sure.
So it seems like humanity's capital allocation to doing bad things is less than doing good things overall that benefit everyone. I'm not talking about we're sucking CO2 out of the atmosphere and we're not funding wars. We're absolutely not sucking CO2 out of the atmosphere, and we absolutely are funding wars. But if you go a few levels down, what you tend to get is tend to get a lot of people that hate the world, but they have no resources or levers to do anything about it. And then it goes up from there. And so you get pockets of communities that hate a certain other pocket or community. They might have some resources often pulled together. And so they will use it for a very specific reason. But the intelligence and the amount of resources you currently need to run something like GPT-4 is very out of reach for really anyone other than a government or a large company that would struggle to do it under the radar.
Okay. So
the other point would be that there are a lot of GPUs in the world that maybe are about to be freed up by the crypto industry.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of sort of shadow data centers started popping up to run these models. And that is completely unregulatable unless we turn the internet off. And it might get so bad that there is global unrest in AI. And we say it is a better net positive to turn off the internet and rethink everything than to let this continue. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's also a very large. I don't think people are very good at getting along on the same idea. And so some people will be like, yeah, we need to turn off the internet. And other people will be like, well, what? Well, I'm running, I don't know, some huge internet company. Don't turn off the internet. I'm going to lose everything. I don't know. So
it depends whether people are dying or not.
Yeah,
if
that's
you
true.
Can't like, this is so dystopian and negative, this podcast at the moment. So really sorry.
I think it's interesting though.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah. But, you know, if you really play this out and you say, okay, you know, AI, closest thing we have to magic, it's sort of the genie for everybody. It's going to grant everybody's wishes. What are people's wishes? That's what we're asking. We're like, oh, we still haven't learned to get on this planet. And now everybody's going to have a genie. Do we just reach an equilibrium where it's kind of like a little bit like a nuclear arms race where no one actually presses the button because it's like a net negative? Or is it so accessible and like now you can run Llama on an M1 Mac?
Yeah.
You know, this is GPT-3 level tech running on an M1 Mac. So in 3 years, and in 3 years time, you'll be running GPT-4 on your Mac. So it's unregulatable. So the next thing you do is like, okay, can we make it so illegal that no one would ever dream of doing it? The answer is basically no.
Well, the answer is no, because currently we're talking about some band of bad actors that come together and they're wearing their mask or whatever. But the bad actors may just be a country that we're at odds with in terms of an opinion.
Yes.
Still recording?
I panicked. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, a group of bad actors could. We're thinking about it in terms of like a bunch of pirates, right? But it could be a country that we have a massive differing opinion on, and we still have not seen, at least not publicly mainstream seen, large scale AI being used in like warfare or cyber warfare. Like if you're a bad act, if you've got the internet accessible and you're, I don't know, a country that's at odds with the US, what's stopping you from using some version of AutoGPT to run and just getting a bunch of instances in US data centers and just running super computationally intensive tasks and just melting server rooms?
Well,
or worse, just shutting things off.
Yeah, those are temporary problems though, because like, so I remember a couple of years ago, I was involved with a different company and we had a problem and all of our systems went down at once and we could not figure out why. And the reason was Amazon had a fire in one of their data centers and it was like a significant fire. Within an hour or two, we were back online.
Okay.
We were in another data center and they'd like moved all their traffic across and they just started rebuilding the data center. So there's a certain amount of redundancy. I think the worst thing would be that someone just kind of does a format on all of the data centers in the world and we just lose all of the world's data. That sounds really concerning. Like, where is all of this data that we're creating? And is it backed up? Like I know that GitHub had this, they did this amazing thing a couple of years ago where they took the key open source projects and they printed them on like super tough plastic sheeting, the source code, and then they put it in an Arctic vault.
Yeah, I saw this. This was super cool.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
That sort of thing we need to seriously do now. We need to take this seriously, because this data that we're creating, it's not just for us. We're learning lessons here. We're documenting things that are going to be useful for generations to come, or how to avoid conflict, or how to suck CO2 out the atmosphere. That's a good example. That is a very important technology. If you look at these ancient civilizations, a lot of what they did, we still don't know how they did it, because the information's been lost.
Wasn't documented.
Dude,
you were talking about the Amazon fire.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, an hour went past and you were back online.
Yep.
Imagine if that business that you were working for or something was, you're an air traffic controller and you were in charge of navigating the 100,000 planes in there, or like the 10,000 planes in the air. If you're down for an hour, there is chaos happening.
There is chaos
happening. And this podcast is getting super dystopian, but this is worrying. I'm very, very interested. I don't think anybody has a good answer on what's going to happen in terms of regulation. And like, we have not seen the best of these systems yet.
Yeah.
Nor have we seen the worst of these systems.
I think we're okay. So this might be that we're just looking at this wrong, and that our human nature is to identify threat and to try and deal with that up front. So it's either like fight or flight. And so you're seeing some people fight, and you're seeing some people run away and hide and want to get rid of it. This is very natural. What is unclear is, are the benefits to humanity going to far outpace and outweigh the negatives? So maybe someone will be able to hack air traffic control, or maybe someone will be able to turn off all of the power for 3 weeks in a country, or to render a data center useless. But maybe we'll find the cure for cancer next year. And maybe we'll get to the moon in 3 years' time. The Mars in 3 years' time. It might be that we start to rapidly change and innovate faster than anyone has ever seen. We're kind of already starting to see it happen, but we just don't know whether this is a blip or not yet. Is it that we're just getting a huge hop forward, like an assist? Or is this pace going to now continue just indefinitely? And I think if you look at just the life of the internet and how that's affected the world and benefited the world, I would still argue that the benefits outweigh the negatives.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
I'm positive and naive. He's more thoughtful.
It's not that. I wonder, we are so diverse in our different, not us two, but humans are so diverse in our different goals, the different things that we think are right and just. I think if everybody 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 X's their ability to inflict their worldview and what they think should be right. Currently, if your particular worldview, you can express that via your Twitter, via your socials, and you can get massive leverage by creating content that maybe goes viral, and you influence change. So like these different movements are a great example of that. Now that's already a lot of leverage, but still it's a contained amount of leverage that you can have on your particular worldview. If you massively increase the leverage that we already have by being able to just generate infinite content about your thing, but also take down your opposing competitors via some kind of auto GPT, ChaosGPT thing. Plus, I don't know, the scale of things that you can do for your worldview and to oppose another person's worldview, and the amount of differing worldviews there are across the world, it seems like there could be a lot of just like tension that gets built.
Maybe.
Or it could be the case that AI remedies a lot of tension already in the world because it's incredibly good at finding reason and balance, and it knows how humans think and how they react. So there's actually something very interesting in this new paper published by Microsoft. I haven't read the entire thing. We need to start reading the entire thing before we're talking about them on the pod. Yeah, it's because everything's so new, you know?
Everything's very fast.
Everything's super new, but Microsoft released this new paper, and the section that I was scrolling through it, but the section that I was really interested in was a section called, I think, AI models and humans or something. So they were basically talking about the abilities for ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 Turbo and GPT-4 in understanding human emotions and intentions. So they ran some kind of experiment where they had two people talking to each other about like an arbitrary topic of like, I think some kind of arbitrary object. I don't think it was called like Zufrit or Zubrit or something. It wasn't an actual thing, but they had two people talking about this imaginary object. And there was like a piece of dialogue that came from these two people. And then they fed that dialogue to GPT-4 and asked, okay, what were the different emotions from the two different people and what were the different intentions? So we'll link the paper down below so you can actually read the thing. But the gist of it was GPT pulled out the information saying, person one lost their Zufrit and they are sad because they no longer have this Zufrit, and they spoke positively about the Zufrit earlier on. So they obviously liked the Zufrit and now it's gone. And so that's why they're sad. Person two is likely to be inconsiderate to person one's feelings because person two does not know that person one lost their Zufrit. And so the intentions of person two may change if they learn that person one lost their Zufrit. It was like a full-on analysis of the two different humans' emotions and their intentions and prediction on how they would interact and how they would behave in the conversation going forward. This is insane. This is AI models being able to understand deep levels of human psyche and theory of mind. It's like, we're not gonna you could have the most powerful psychologist and behavioral psychologist in the world. They probably wouldn't be able to hold a candle up to just a very powerful. They probably wouldn't be able to hold a candle up to GPT-4.
You know, it took us a long time to reap the benefits of the internet. And it seems like it's going to take us a long time to discover the benefits of the AI progress that's been made already. Like if we stopped at GPT-4, I think it would take us 10 years to truly use GPT-4.
Yeah.
To really get the most out of it. Like when it was released, awesome. Then AutoGPT. Okay. So you can use GPT-4 in a recursive loop. But there also seems to be other things going on in our brain. Like I'm talking to you right now, but I'm capable of thinking about a couple of other things at the same time. Like I know that it's almost like there's multiple lines of thought in my head that are going on at the same time. And one takes priority and it switches. That's how it feels to me when I'm talking. And sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, I got to do that. And suddenly that like catches up with the rest. And I'm now thinking about this thing. It doesn't seem like these models are doing anything like that. It seems like they're very linear. So that they can do multiple tasks, but only one at a time. And I wonder what happens when you parallelize them and then you feed them back in. So rather than recursively firing them, here's another idea. Someone go build this. It's 10 GPT-4 requests run in parallel that converge on an answer, and then 10 more. So it's like parallel. So there's multiple things going on that are unrelated that converge on one single output. This seems to be more how I feel my brain works.
Okay, so to break that down, so what you're saying is that the way that we think is, okay, I want a pizza for dinner, right? So that's the initial kernel of thought. I fancy pizza. So your brain immediately goes and answers 10 questions at the same time subconsciously. Okay, if I'm ordering pizza, what size do I get? How many people am I eating with? Are there any pizza places nearby? Is it a bank holiday? No. So the pizza place is open. Do they deliver to my friend's address? Because that's where I'm going. You answer a bunch of different questions kind of automatically. You don't do them in series. It's not like, right, okay, if I want a pizza, first of all, let me think about the size. You kind of answer all of these things. And so then you converge on a bunch of, you basically, if it's 10 questions that you ask subconsciously, you get 10 answers.
Yeah.
And then that kind of forms either the next loop of thought, which is, okay, if I'm having pizza today, I'm meant to be going to a fancy pizza place on Saturday, so I probably don't want to have pizza today. It maybe sparks another cycle of questions, or you converge on some kind of reasoning-based judgment. Right now, AutoGPT is doing the model of, okay, they're doing everything in series. So I want a pizza. First of all, let me understand the size. Then let me understand what's nearby. Then let me understand. If you parallelize if you take AutoGPT, which is already incredibly powerful, but then you create some kind of parallel AutoGPT that can process 10 different requests at the same time, and based on those results can either create another loop or come up with a much more reasoned argument, that would be a significant leap.
Yeah, that's a good example, although I think it might slightly oversimplify. So what we've shown at Carter is that if you give a GPT model a task to just generate dialogue, it does a pretty good job. But if you introduce personality and emotion into it, it does a phenomenal job, because it's communicating some form of information that's not just in the thing it's saying or a thing it means. There's some hidden thing. So like with the pizza example, if you came in the room and I was having a really bad day and I was just in a really terrible mood because, I don't know, I'd had an argument with my mum. And you say, hey, Hugh, do you want pizza? I might go, yeah, fine, whatever. There's a lot of information passing there very quickly. So first of all, I've made some sort of process in my head completely separate about my mum has now affected my thought on pizza and the fact that you've walked in the room. So there's like three things. They've all converged on one single output. Now I've communicated with you perfectly clear that I want pizza, but in a very antisocial, angry way. And so now you have extra information. Now your brain is going to, while you're ordering the pizza, being like, what the hell is up with you? You're thinking about multiple things at once. And I think this is part of our social side of our brain. We pick up on the intonation, we pick up on the way people talk. They use lots of words or not many words. We've found through what we've been up to is more words is better. It gives a lot more positive information through. But sometimes you need to be quick and snappy. You know? If you're in a battlefield, you need to be speaking fast and to the point. You can't be mumbling. You can't be not very descriptive. You need to be specific, to the point, and fast. I think there's a lack in these models' ability to understand multiple signals at the same time in this way. It doesn't seem like they're able to do this. They might be able to infer based on the history of the conversation things. We can see they're very good at that. So they can pay attention to the fact that Hugh snapped at Danny and now infer that Danny is probably now feeling slightly confused or whatever. But they're not able to do that at the same time. And it feels like I'm able to do this. It feels like my brain is able to process all of those things at the same time. It's like, it's raining outside. Danny wants to order pizza. I'm annoyed. I need to get all this work done. And. There's a lot of things that are just like processes that are constantly going on in my brain, separate from one another, but they can share information between one another to result in really complicated behavior in the real world. And it communicates more information to you, which adds to your internal processes and so on. Okay,
So what happens when we have a parallel thinking, multimodal GPT-5 powered AutoGPT?
I don't know. So I get to tap out now. I think that if you gave Alan Turing GPT-4, he might quit. And he might just sort of, do something else other than mathematics. He might go in pain.
He might go in pain.
These leaps are happening very quickly. And I don't think everyone is going to be able to keep up. If I'm being honest.
I'm quite interested in the Turing test itself, because it seems like that is no longer a good enough bar, because it's clear that tricking humans is not actually that high of a bar.
Yeah.
Probably the test would be if you could get GPT-4 to trick GPT-4. That would probably be like a sentience test, because the thing is, like, we've already seen, like, the Turing test has been passed. This kidnapping example, horrendous example. There's probably other examples, like the Google example of the person booking an appointment at the barbershop. But this voice cloning example is like, that human was convinced that was not only a person, but her daughter, right? And so that test has passed. That's like a solved problem. What would be interesting is if you had, so if you had a model that was capable of parallel thought, so not just answering one question series by series and then going from there, but it could answer 10 different questions, come up with 10 different answers that sprouted a web of other questions to come up with some kind of reasoning. If you had that, but the model was multimodal, so it could basically see, hear, and read. So it had the ability to process images, video, audio, text, basically any form of data that we use to communicate already. And you had that model, and you gave that ability, that model, the ability to talk to itself in a loop constantly. Basically, I can't think of anything that wouldn't be possible for that model. Is there something that you can think of that you're like, okay, even that model would not be able to do X?
Travel in time.
Okay. So manipulate.
Can it go back in time?
Well, that's an interesting topic in and of itself. We had a conversation with Steve Jobs today. And yes, we spoke for maybe 10, 15 minutes each. But if you went to somebody in the 90s and you said, yeah, Steve passed away in 2000, you traveled back in time, you said Steve passed away in 2009, but we simulated him in 2023.
Yes.
And we got advice from Steve Jobs, even though he had been dead for X number of years.
Yeah.
Is that not, it's not physical going back in time, but it's pulling somebody from the past into the present?
Only for the people in the present. The person in the past's done. Like, they're still, you're not bringing them back unless it discovers something about physics and something about souls or afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the model's going to be able to bring someone back from the dead. So
okay, fair point.
That's my belief. However, there are billions of people that believe in, legitimate and formal views of the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
So if even one of them is right, then maybe it can do that as well. That's so far out there in blue sky, so it'll probably be done in 6 months. But it'll be interesting to see what the limits are as we grow up. Like, we're in our 20s at the moment.
Yeah, early mid-20s.
Yeah. So in by the time we're 50, what things these models still not going to be able to do? And I don't know.
I honestly, dude, I don't know. If you take that parallelized multimodal GPT X powered auto GPT and you put that thing in a Neuralink, and you put that in everybody's head, what is going to be the output? If it can literally simulate every part of that person's, not just personality, but their brain, and the biological person dies, but the digital person stays alive, and people are just hosted in some kind of data center. Is that not the same thing as living? Is that not immortality?
Yeah, but do you know something that keeps coming in my mind at the moment? It keeps popping up in my mind. We used to think that if you drove too fast, you would die. So it was like too dangerous to drive fast. And so the first people who had cars would have someone walk in front with a flag.
Yeah.
And they would drive at leisurely pace of walking speed of like 3 miles an hour. Now you can go like hundreds of miles an hour. You could go on a bullet train and we're like, this is fine. This is fine. We know it's fine. It might be that we look back at this moment and go, we were so dumb. We thought AI was going to take over and ruin everything.
Yeah.
But actually it didn't. Could be that. Could be that we're just terrified.
Yeah. Human instinct, panicking.
The naivety is kicking in again. I feel on my side of the microphone. but that's the most positive thing I can think is that, yes, this is world changing, but it will be okay for some unknown reason. But that doesn't mean we should ignore AI safety. That means we should pay more attention to AI safety.
So you think everything's going to be okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had nukes for a long time.
Yeah. We haven't had autonomous swarms of assassin drones, though. You know? So do you think your mind might change?
Do you think we have a balance, Doug? My mind might change if there's a swarm outside the office.
Yeah, just wait for the first batch of assassin drones.
Yeah.
No, I do think with all things, I think there is the concept of we are natural panickers. Toilet roll during COVID. That was like a market that did not need to boom, but it did. We could be in the toilet roll moment of that's a horrendous name. We could be in the panic.
We're in the toilet.
We're in the toilet roll moment. Yeah. We could be in the panic mode of AI where people are like, oh my God, ChaosGPT is going to take over and planes aren't going to be safe anymore. Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen this happen a lot through history. Us panicking with new technology because it's terrible, because it is scary.
It is scary for sure. And it could be the case that regulation steps in before we create any system that's actually able to continuously run indefinitely and actually create something dangerous.
Okay, so to be less positive, I also have this feeling that regulation is going to do nothing.
Okay.
So, in 1 hour, if anyone listening to this has an hour spare, maybe 2, go to YouTube and type in TruthGPT tutorial. And you will find a tutorial with, last I checked, 1.5 million views. That's an hour and a half long. Right. And he shows you how to build a GPT model from scratch in Python. And it's not big. This is a very small amount of code. It's like a few hundred lines.
Right.
All you need to recreate GPT-3, let's say, because it's unknown what 3.5 and 4 use. But all you need to at least recreate GPT-3 is a bunch of compute and a bunch of data and some deeper understanding of what the model's actually doing and how to correct it, which you can learn.
Yeah.
So people are going to
learn for free.
People are going to catch up. Yep. People are going to probably sell. If it got outlawed, people would just sell the model weights on the dark web. Surely.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether, I think we live in a world where we're going to have to get used to this powerful AI being around, and we're going to have to start thinking of ways of protecting the things we love. Yeah,
I agree. That's a great end to the episode.
See you in the park.
See you. Yeah, we're going to need to meet up in real life so that we can tell that we're actually talking to each other.
Yeah, if some shit does go down with AI, we should do an episode from the park.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in to episode 4 of the GPT podcast. I've been Danny.
I've been Hugh.
And if you'd like to see more of our content, you can always follow us, Carter, CARTER_labs, LABS on Twitter, or check us out on YouTube. I think we're just called Carter. If you search Carter or Carter API, you can find us. Until next time.
Till next time.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.